They say the Philippines is small, they say it is weak, they say it is easy to overlook. To outsiders, it is nothing more than a scattering of islands in the Pacific, a postcard of white beaches, coconut trees, storms, and poverty. A nation painted with stereotypes, where hardship is expected and greatness is doubted. But this is the greatest mistake the world keeps making. They confuse humility for weakness. They mistake resilience for silence. They fail to see that behind the laughter of its people, behind the warmth of its culture, lies a nation forged in fire. For the Philippines is no stranger to struggle. It has been invaded, colonized, bombed, starved, and exploited. Yet through every century of hardship, one thing remains unbroken: the Filipino spirit. This is not a land of weakness. This is a land of survivors. A people who have stood face to face with empires, who have fought against impossible odds, who have rebuilt their homes from ash again and again. And today, as the world races toward a future shaped by power, trade, and influence, the Philippines is quietly standing at the crossroads of history. While others underestimate it, the truth is this: the Philippines holds the potential to shake the very balance of Asia. So in this video, we dive deep into a question the world has ignored for too long. Why has the Philippines always been underestimated, and why might the world soon regret it? 1. The geography that shapes giants. To most people, the Philippines is reduced to a number: 7,000 islands. A tropical postcard, a fragmented map scattered across blue waters. But what outsiders fail to see is that these islands are not just isolated specks. They form one of the most strategic crossroads in the entire world. The Philippines sits like a gatekeeper at the very center of Asia and the Pacific. To the north lies Japan and China. To the west, Vietnam and the rest of mainland Southeast Asia. To the east, the vast Pacific Ocean that leads directly to the United States. This is not just geography, it is destiny. Every ship that carries oil, food, weapons, or goods between these powers sails dangerously close to the Philippine seas. Whoever controls this region doesn't just hold influence over islands, they hold influence over global trade worth trillions of dollars every single year. And history has already proven this. Spain clung to the Philippines for more than 300 years, not just for religion or riches, but because it was their anchor in Asia. The United States turned it into a key military base, knowing its importance for both defense and power projection. Japan invaded during World War II because it understood one truth: control the Philippines and you control the Pacific. But here's the irony. While empires rose and fell, while foreign flags were planted and then torn down, the Philippines itself survived. It endured colonization, war, and devastation, yet still stood when the dust cleared. That endurance is power, a hidden kind of power, underestimated because it is quiet, overlooked because it is humble. The Philippines has always been more than its islands. It has been the chessboard where giants play their games. And in the future, as the world shifts toward Asia once again, those who underestimate its geography may realize too late that the Philippines is not just part of the map, it is the key to it. 2. The warrior spirit of a people. If the world dares to call the Philippines weak, then it has chosen to forget history. Because time and time again, this nation has proven that its greatest strength is not in numbers or weapons, it is in the unbreakable spirit of its people. In 1521, when European explorers first arrived, they expected obedience. They expected another conquest. But on the shores of Mactan, a chieftain named Lapu-Lapu defied the world's most powerful empire. His warriors stood their ground against Ferdinand Magellan, the man who had sailed across oceans with Spain's banner. That day, Magellan fell, not to muskets or cannons, but to native blades and courage. This was no ordinary victory. It was the first time in Asia that a European colonizer had been defeated in battle, and it came from the Philippines. Centuries later, the fire of resistance burned again. In 1896, Filipino revolutionaries rose up against Spain after more than 300 years of colonial rule. They were farmers, workers, and students, yet they fought like seasoned warriors. They carried outdated weapons, but they had something Spain could not crush: the determination to be free. And even when Spain surrendered the Philippines to the United States in 1898, the Filipinos refused to bow. the Philippine-American War erupted, and though outgunned and outnumbered, Filipino guerrillas earned the respect of American generals, who admitted they were among the fiercest fighters they had ever faced. Then came the crucible of World War II. When Japan invaded, Filipinos once again took up arms, this time fighting side by side with American soldiers. They defended Bataan and Corregidor with a desperation that stunned the enemy. Even when Manila was reduced to ashes and tens of thousands were massacred, the resistance never died. Guerrilla fighters in the mountains struck fear into the Japanese army, proving that the spirit of defiance could not be burned away. This is the truth. To underestimate the Philippines is to underestimate a people born to fight back against impossible odds. From Lapu-Lapu's blade to the jungles of Bataan, from revolutionaries to modern heroes, the Filipino spirit has always been one of resilience, defiance, and courage. The world may see storms, poverty, or scattered islands, but those who look closer will see a history of warriors. And history teaches us one undeniable fact. A nation that refuses to break can never truly be conquered. 3. A silent economic force. The world often points at Philippine poverty, shaking their heads at images of typhoons, traffic, and hardship. But in doing so, they overlook something extraordinary. While the Philippines may not shout its strength, it quietly keeps the gears of the global economy turning. Everywhere you go, from the skyscrapers of Dubai to the hospitals of London, from oil rigs in Saudi Arabia to cruise ships crossing the Atlantic, you will find Filipinos. These are the overseas Filipino workers, OFWs, millions of them scattered across the globe. They are the nurses keeping patients alive, the engineers maintaining oil fields, the caregivers looking after the elderly, the sailors guiding massive cargo ships through dangerous waters. Entire industries in the Middle East, Europe, and Asia would collapse overnight if Filipinos were to disappear. Their impact is more than presence, it's power. The Philippines is one of the top labor exporters in the world, and the remittances sent back home fuel the national economy with billions of dollars every year. But here's the twist. Those billions don't just help the Philippines, they stabilize foreign economies too. Because without Filipino workers, the global workforce itself would be weaker. And then, there's the invisible empire of voices. At night, while much of the world sleeps, millions of Filipinos sit inside glowing call centers, answering phones for Fortune 500 companies, handling customer service, tech support, and global operations. This is the business process outsourcing, BPO industry, where the Philippines stands as one of the largest hubs in the entire world. When you call your bank, your airline, or your internet provider, there is a very good chance the voice on the other end belongs to a Filipino. They are the unseen bridge that allows billion-dollar corporations to run smoothly. Multinational giants like Google, Amazon, JP Morgan, and Accenture rely on this silent army of skilled workers in Manila, Cebu, and Davao. So, while outsiders may laugh at poverty, the truth is this. The Philippines has its hands deep in the veins of the global system. It doesn't need to roar for the world to feel its presence. With its workers abroad and its industries at home, the Philippines has woven itself into the fabric of modern civilization. This is the irony of underestimation. The world mocks the Philippines while depending on it more than they realize. 4. The military underdog. Yes, the Philippines does not command the massive fleets of China, nor does it wield the nuclear arsenal of the United States. On the surface, its military may look small, underfunded, even outdated. And this is exactly why the world makes the mistake of underestimating it. But history tells another story. For decades, the armed forces of the Philippines, AFP, have fought enemies not in neat battlefields, but in jungles, mountains, and scattered islands where survival depends on wit, grit, and instinct. From communist insurgents to extremist groups, Filipino soldiers have been hardened by wars that rarely make headlines, but demand a level of resilience far beyond conventional combat. This is what makes them unique. Experience born of constant struggle. Unlike the polished armies of superpowers, the AFP has learned to fight with limited resources, improvising weapons, using terrain as an advantage, and mastering guerrilla warfare tactics. Many foreign generals and analysts have noted, a Filipino soldier may not have the best equipment, but give him a rifle and a jungle, and he becomes a force you cannot easily break. In fact, this adaptability has earned global recognition. Filipino troops have long been deployed in United Nations peacekeeping missions, serving in war-torn countries like Liberia, the Golan Heights, and East Timor. There, they proved what the world often forgets, that discipline and courage can outweigh sheer numbers. And then comes the modern shift. The Philippines has strengthened its defense alliances, becoming a critical linchpin in Pacific security. With new defense pacts with the United States, Japan, and Australia, Filipino territory now serves as a key outpost for maintaining balance in the South China Sea and beyond. This means that even without the largest army, the Philippines stands as a strategic shield for democracy in Asia. The irony is clear. Sometimes the most dangerous fighter is the one the world ignores until it's too late. The Philippines may not march with thunderous armies, but it has the warrior spirit, the allies, and the battlefield wisdom that make underestimating it a grave mistake. 5. Culture as power. When people measure power, they look at armies, weapons, or skyscrapers. But one of the greatest forces in the modern world isn't made of steel or stone. It's made of culture. And in this realm, the Philippines has long been underestimated. Soft power may not roar like cannons, but it seeps into hearts and minds. It changes how the world sees you, and in time, how the world treats you. And Filipinos have mastered this quiet, unstoppable force. Take music. Across continents, the sound of a Filipino voice is unmistakable. From karaoke nights in small towns to international stages like The Voice and Broadway, Filipinos dominate. Their talent is so consistent that the world has come to expect world-class singers from this nation of islands. It's not just entertainment, it's influence. A song sung from Manila can travel farther than any bullet. Or consider sports. Manny Pacquiao is not just a boxing legend, he is a global symbol. Every time he stepped into the ring, the Philippine flag was seen by millions. His victories were not his alone. They were the victories of an entire nation, reminding the world that greatness can come from places often ignored. And Pacquiao is only one of many. Filipino athletes, dancers, and performers continue to win respect in international arenas, proving time and again that their small country produces giants. Then there's food and tradition. Adobo, halo-halo, lechon, Filipino cuisine has found its way into kitchens and restaurants worldwide. And let's not forget dance. From traditional folk dances to TikTok trends, Filipino creativity always finds a stage. Even the karaoke machine itself, a symbol of joyful gatherings around the globe, owes its fame in part to the Filipino love for music and community. But perhaps the greatest cultural export of the Philippines is not food, dance, or sport. It is the spirit of the people. Filipinos are known for their warmth, resilience, and joy even in the face of hardship. A Filipino smile is as much a weapon of influence as any military strategy. This reputation creates allies, opens doors, and spreads an image of hope and survival that the world cannot ignore. Culture may not raise flags on conquered territory, but it does something greater. It conquers hearts. And make no mistake, when a people capture hearts, they shape the future. This is not weakness. This is influence. And influence, in the long run, is power. 6. Why the Philippines could be a global powerhouse. The greatest mistake the world makes is believing the Philippines is only what it is today. Look closer, and you'll see a nation with the building blocks of greatness, resources, youth, and unshakable resilience. Hidden wealth beneath the soil. The Philippines sits on untapped treasure: gold, nickel, copper, and natural gas. These aren't just raw materials, they're the backbone of the future economy. As the world pivots to green technology, electric cars, and renewable energy, demand for nickel and copper will explode. Countries that control these resources will control the pace of global innovation, and the Philippines is sitting right on top of it. A nation of youth. With over 115 million people and a median age of only 25, the Philippines has one of the youngest populations in the world. While nations like Japan and much of Europe are shrinking and aging, the Philippines is bursting with fresh energy, creativity, and ambition. This youth isn't just a number, it's a labor force, an entrepreneurial class, and a wave of future leaders who can push the country forward if given the right opportunities. Resilience that breeds strength. Few nations have been tested like the Philippines. Typhoons batter the islands, earthquakes shake its ground, and political struggles often divide its leaders. Yet through it all, the people rebuild, endure, and rise again. That kind of resilience isn't weakness, it's steel. It's the quiet power that could one day fuel the Philippines into becoming a global force. The Philippines isn't just what it is, it's what it's becoming, and the world hasn't seen its full potential yet. 7. Why the world underestimates the Philippines. Why does the world underestimate the Philippines? Because unlike superpowers, it does not roar. It does not parade nuclear weapons on global television. It does not march with massive armies across borders. It does not shake its fist across oceans, demanding to be feared. Instead, the Philippines moves quietly, its strength hidden not in threats, but in people, in culture, in resilience. And in a world obsessed with noise, quiet strength is often ignored. It rarely dominates headlines. There are no wars of conquest, no global empires, no chest-thumping declarations. And so, to outsiders, the Philippines looks like a small nation adrift in the Pacific, defenseless, dependent, fragile. They mistake peace for weakness. They mistake humility for surrender. But history has a dangerous lesson. The nations dismissed as weak are often the ones that rise when least expected. The Spanish thought the Philippines would break easily. But revolutionaries proved otherwise. The Americans believed their control would be permanent. But resistance burned in the mountains. The Japanese expected obedience. Instead, they found guerrilla fighters who would rather die than kneel. This is the pattern outsiders miss. The quieter the Philippines appears, the stronger it becomes when tested. Its power is not loud, it is patient, not boastful, but enduring. Filipinos may welcome you with a smile. They may show kindness, hospitality, and warmth. But behind that warmth is a will sharpened by centuries of survival. Behind every act of humility lies a fire that refuses to be extinguished. And in a world where empires rise and fall, perhaps the greatest surprise waiting to shake the world is the Philippines itself. The Philippines is not perfect. It faces corruption, poverty, and political challenges. It wrestles with storms both natural and man-made, from typhoons that flatten cities to leaders who divide rather than unite. Its flaws are visible, its struggles undeniable. But none of these erase its spirit. None of these diminish its place. None of these silence its potential. The world underestimates the Philippines because it only sees the surface, statistics of poverty, images of disasters, stories of instability. But beneath that surface lies something far more powerful, a nation of warriors, workers, dreamers, and survivors. A people who fought colonizers with nothing but blades and courage. A people who rebuilt from war when their cities were reduced to rubble. A people who leave their families to work in foreign lands, keeping the world's economies alive. A people who face disaster after disaster, yet rebuild their homes, their lives, their hope, again and again. The Philippines is not weak. It is unbroken. It is a nation that bleeds but heals, that bends but does not shatter, that suffers yet still sings. And perhaps this is the most dangerous kind of strength, the kind that does not come from wealth or weapons, but from resilience carved into the soul of its people. One day, the world will wake up and see the truth, that the Philippines was never small, that it was never voiceless, that it was never powerless. And when that day comes, when the world finally realizes the power of the Philippines, it may already be too late to stop the rise of the island giant that refused to be silenced.